Well, I want to start by thanking everyone for being here today. I think I know most of the people on the call, but if not, I'm Graham Thomas, one of our deputy directors here at tnAchieves, and really appreciative that you're here today. Really what we're going to do today is we're going to start out taking a kind of a zoomed out snapshot of our tnAchieves and Tennessee Promise data at the state level. And then we are going to zoom in and take a look at it in Rutherford County so you can get a local snapshot of how students in Rutherford County are doing compared to students across the state. When we launched Tennessee Promise back in 2014, it was written into the legislation that each county mayor, county executive appoints a group that we call a local advisory council to really do a few things for us. One was to provide some guidance, really specifically in helping us launch our mentoring program, find the active pockets of people that could help support students locally, and also provide a layer of accountability for us. So we always want to report back our progress, our successes, our struggles, and you're gonna see all of that here today. There's certainly a struggle slide in this presentation, I guess you could call it. So as we go through this, please feel free to interrupt me, ask questions. You can also, if you want to save them till the end, that's fine too, but certainly want to get your feedback. We also decided, since this year the best option seemed to go virtual. Chrissy and I got in the car a couple years ago and visited all 90 counties. Figured this year, as the world is still kind of changing constantly, it was better to go virtual. So we invited everyone. So mentors, business partners, college partners. If you've ever been in contact with tnAchieves, we're glad that you're here and we're looking forward to your questions and your feedback. Just to go ahead and kick us off, a quick reminder who tnAchieves is. We are the 501c3 that operates Tennessee Promise in 90 of our state's 95 counties. We launched in just one county, Knox County, in 2008. And since then, we've worked with more than 440,000 students, 71,000 volunteers. We work annually with more than 600 Tennessee high schools and 67 colleges across the state. This next slide is just kind of a quick reminder of what we call the core components of tnAchieves. The first three here have really been with us since this program was just an idea on a whiteboard in Knox County Mayor's office. Tennessee Promise is the last dollar scholarship, providing students the opportunity to attend our 13 community colleges, our 27 Tennessee colleges of applied technology, as well as 27 universities and four-year colleges across the state, tuition free. Each student that applies for Tennessee Promise in one of the 90 counties where we operate is paired with a volunteer mentor that is checking in and providing guidance through the college going process. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. And finally, our students give back 8 hours of community service every semester they receive the scholarship. That was really important to us when we launched the program. When we launched in Knoxville, we privately funded the scholarships. We went out and raised money for students to be able to go to college, recruited mentors to make sure they were successful. And so we wanted to make sure our students continued that tradition of giving back 8 hours every single semester. Those three components have been with us since this was just an idea, really. We have added a few things since then and got some exciting news on the summer program piece. So we offer a summer bridge program at all 13 community colleges. We actually offered it at 15 sites this year. So for some of our colleges that have really large service areas, there were 2 locations for students to attend. This program is designed for students that are not testing into college level coursework in at least one subject, being math, reading, and writing. Some students require all 3, some only require 1 or 2. It is a 3-week program. They come every day and do an hour of each one of those subjects. And at the end, they take the placement test, see if they've improved or tested into college level coursework. Happy to report that we had an 89% success rate with this program this year. I feel like this year was probably more important than ever as students were in school and out of school. And we've heard a lot about potential learning loss and test scores seem to be down. Really excited that we had an 89% success rate. The second program we call Summer Institute is a program that we operate in the urban core of Memphis. This year we had 29 students take us up on this program. It is essentially the Summer Bridge program on steroids. It is 6 weeks long. It's about 6 or 7 hours a day, as compared to 3 weeks long and 3 hours a day. And it's actually credit bearing. Students that participate in this program need all 3 learning support classes, again, reading, writing, and math. And they come in and they take all of those learning support classes paired with the co-requisite model. They take college level courses. Students have the opportunity to knock out all their learning support and earn 9 hours of college credit. Most exciting news we've had in a while, 100% success rate in this program this year. All 29 students completed the program and earned 9 hours of college credit in addition to knocking out those learning support classes. So students that were going to start a full semester behind are starting a full semester ahead. And we're hoping to grow that program outside of Memphis in the coming years. Finally, one of our newer pieces of the program is our complete coaching model. What we have identified through the first 7 years of Tennessee Promise is that, unfortunately, even though college is tuition free, our low-income students are not going to college at rates as high as their peers. And when they go, they don't graduate at rates as high as their peers. So we have created a program where we are proactively reaching out to these students. They are assigned a full-time staff member that are coaching them through college, kind of where, if you're a mentor, where your work as a mentor ends, the coach's job begins. And we have actually taken this lowest performing group of students in Tennessee Promise, and they are outpacing the general population now in fall-to-fall retention. Program is too young to have a graduation rate yet, but all signs, early success indicators are there. This next slide shows some more.
Graham,
yes, sir.
Just a quick question. This is Dan. Hey,
sure.
You were talking about that program in Memphis with the 9 credit hours, the summer program.
Yes, sir.
Does the cost of that go against their Tennessee Promise scholarship?
It does not, no.
Does not. Okay. Is it for free? Like the summer bridge is free? It is.
It
okay.
is. There's an additional layer there. They have to go back and complete the previous year's FAFSA. So we do leverage the federal dollars there. The vast majority of those students are Pell Grant eligible, almost 90%, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So they go back, file the previous year's FAFSA. We use that to help offset the cost, and then we pay whatever is left over.
Okay. Okay, good.
Also, all 29, so 100% of the students participating this year identified as a minority population. So really promising results in that program. We've tried to bring it to Nashville 2 years ago. We tried to bring it to Knoxville this past year. We're having a hard time getting students to register. This year, I think, obvious, unique challenges, but we're going to continue to try to grow that.
Good, good. Thanks for the extra detail.
No problem, Dan. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
This slide shows some of our additional reach operating in 90 counties, mentioned that already, 74 of which are considered rural, 35 or are at risk or distressed counties. Both of those designations there come from the Department of Economic and Community Development. And then operating, you see, in 601 high schools. Those are all the public, private, and homeschool cooperatives in those 90 counties. We partner with 76 colleges across the state, and then you can see the breakdown of where our students are going. 79% of them are enrolled at the community college. No big surprise that it is the most popular option, with an additional 11% at the TCAT and 10% exercising that 4-year option. A little more about the scope of our work here. So we are working with more than 60,000 high school seniors annually. When you pair that with our enrolled college students, we're working with more than 90,000 students each year. 89% of all Tennessee high school seniors in the state come through the tnAchieves program. When you pair that with the work that the AIRS Foundation is doing, more than 90% of students across Tennessee are applying for Tennessee Promise, but 89% of all high school seniors come through tnAchieves. 78% of all first-time freshmen at Tennessee community colleges are tnAchieves students, and a number that we're really proud of, 86% of all Tennessee community college graduates come through the tnAchieves program. So when we take a step back, specifically those of us that have been here since we were working with 490 students in Knoxville 13 years ago, think about the scope at which we're operating these days. I still have to pinch myself sometimes, but it's really motivating to wake up every day and think about what can we do to continue to move the needle for these students and for our state as a whole. This next line shows some additional demographic information. 56% of our students are eligible for federal financial aid, which is the federal Pell Grant, which means they're coming from low-income households. 40% self-identify as first-generation college students. A couple of things about this number. One, I don't know that there's a really great definition of what it means to be a first-generation college student. Second, this is a self-reported number that students report on the FAFSA. When you take a step back and think that about 44% of adults in Tennessee have a post-secondary credential, the fact that only 40% of the next generation is reporting that their first generation seems a little off to me. I think this number skews a little bit low, but it's the best that we have. And again, self-reported data there. So always kind of an asterisk next to that one. Another thing, Chrissy presented to the National Science Board a couple of weeks ago. So we pulled to see what are our students majoring in. And we're really excited to see that 51% of our students are majoring in either a health field or a STEM related field. So Beth, as you know, the work at the Chamber, those are our most in-demand fields across Tennessee, which means that our students are they're getting credentials that are desirable for employers and that they're going to find meaningful employment. So we were really excited about that number. The bottom of the slide here, $32 million annual scholarship cost. That comes out to about $1,100 per student. And then Tennessee Achieves operating costs at $2.5 million. See, we have a question here from Sharon. Can this funding be used for apprenticeship programs? I assume you're asking about Tennessee Promise funding. As long as it is a full-time program at a TCAT or at a community college or an eligible institution, students can participate in Tennessee Promise, but I would probably need to know more about specific programs to answer that question. Next, we're going to look at some local Rutherford County benchmarks. First, you see the FAFSA filing rate. Statewide, 86% of Tennessee Promise students filed their FAFSA. That is down from 90% a year ago. Rutherford County coming in just a couple ticks below at 84%. We saw some challenges this year. I think the obvious ones, students were not in class for a full year. Some were in, some were out. Statewide, our two largest school districts, Nashville and Memphis, were not in. I think is a big contributor to the drop in FAFSA completion. Our counselors, who do such a wonderful job identifying students and helping them complete the FAFSA, weren't able to do that if they're not in class. I think it probably boils down to that. We're going to continue to work to make sure that we get back up towards that 90% number. And then next, you see the community service numbers. Statewide, we're approaching 3.4 million hours of community service completed by Tennessee Promise students. Our board chairman, Randy Boyd, says that makes us the largest community service organization in the state of Tennessee. We don't have any clue if that is accurate or not. No one has raised their hand to say it's not, so we're going to run with it until someone tells us otherwise. And then you can see locally 126 hours completed in Rutherford County. So hopefully you're seeing that on the Motlow campus, in your schools, Beth, through organizations that the Chamber supports and our nonprofits. 126 hours completed there. This next slide is probably our most important slide. It is a snapshot of how your Rutherford County students are doing. So the application, enrollment, retention data that you see here is all from the class of 2019. The graduation data is from the class of 2017. Locally, you see almost 3,400 students applying from Rutherford County. Makes you one of our top 5 largest Tennessee Promise applicants. I think after the 4 major metropolitan counties, you come in next. Students enrolling with Tennessee Promise, almost 840 of them. And then the really important data here, first year retention rate, coming in 3 percentage points lower than statewide. 64% of your students that start college are coming back in the fall versus 67%. But then you catch up in the graduation space. 3-year graduation rate of 35%, which is exactly where we are statewide. I think it is hard to get excited about a 35% graduation rate, but when we launched tnAchieves 13 years ago, the community college 3-year graduation rate was 14%. So we are moving the needle in the right direction, and we are going to continue to do so. A few more positive outcomes that we have seen since the launch of Tennessee Promise and with Tennessee Achieves. Here you can see that first-time full-time freshmen at community colleges, their first-year retention. So again, students that start their freshman year come back their sophomore year is 53%. Tennessee Achieve students at eligible Tennessee Promise institutions. So these are students that are receiving the full benefit of Tennessee Promise, 67% retention rate, and 74% for Tennessee Achieve students that go to college anywhere. So these are students that go to MTSU, UTK, Memphis, Martin, wherever, Chattanooga, but they went through our program. They were given a mentor. We supported them in some way on their college going journey, 74% fall to fall retention rate. And then you see our 6-year graduation rate at the bottom. So for students that start at a community college, general population, 35% of them will graduate, earn a credential 6 years later. For Tennessee Achieve students that start at community college, it's 51%. These are students that fall into a couple categories here. These are your students that go to Motlow, earn their associate's degree, go into the workforce, or maybe they transfer. And these are also your students that go to Motlow for a year, knock out their core classes, transfer to MTSU, TSU, wherever it may be, and then earn a bachelor's degree within 6 years. 51%, again, hard number to celebrate, 51%. But when you think about where we started, we really have come a long way in a pretty short amount of time. What are we doing to impact these outcomes? You see this in this other box on the screen here. I mentioned the success of our summer programs, but an additional success point for our summer programs are that students that complete them and enroll in college increase their first year retention rate by 34%. So they're beginning college more prepared, and then they're staying and coming back for their sophomore year at a much higher rate. Students in our complete coaching model have increased their first year retention by 23%. And then a program that we're really excited about in Knox Promise, a newer program for us. This program is funded by a private donor in Knoxville, and it does a couple of things. One, every Knox County student that enrolls in college eligible for Tennessee Promise gets a coach. So the complete program statewide is only for our lowest income students. Knox Promise, every student gets a coach regardless of income. Second, we have what we call completion grant funding for these students. You may be more familiar in a term as emergency grant funding, but students, we can help them pay for books. We can pay for their gas. For food insecure students, we can pay their grocery bills. We pay utility bills for students. We have had homeless students, and we pay for their transitional housing. The majority of these students go to Pellissippi State Community College in Knoxville, right? That makes the most sense for them. And what we have heard from Pellissippi is that through the pandemic, the Knox Promise population is their highest retaining population. So we really feel like we can make a difference with, one, more intensive coaching, and two, these completion grants. We have received, it's a 4-year $1 million pilot, $250,000 a year of completion grant funding across the state of Tennessee. The income threshold is very low. They have to be a 0 EFC student on their FAFSA, so the lowest income students in Tennessee. And we can help them pay for those things that I talked about earlier. Travel expenses, food if they need it, utility bills, books. We sent an email out to all of the students in Tennessee that are eligible for that on Monday, and we've been getting quite a few of those back. But something we're really excited about, I think if we can improve retention and graduation rates, even just a little bit with this funding, we have a chance to really expand that program across the state. And our legislature has been extremely supportive of our program, and we're continuing to work with them to hopefully grow that program. Everything in this presentation has been really good until we get to this slide. You can see from 2014 to 2015, that's the launch of Tennessee Promise. We increased the college going rate in Tennessee by 4.6%, more than the previous 7 years combined. You can see we continue to trend upwards for a couple of years. We plateaued there for a couple of years. You see COVID hit, and we have lost all of our gains since the launch of Tennessee Promise. Our college going rate decreased about 5% across the state. Rutherford County, you have seen a similar hit. You are trending higher than the state average. You're still higher than the state average, but it looks like you had an almost 4% loss in your county's college going rate. We've seen this everywhere. I was actually just did the Murray County version of this presentation an hour ago. They saw an 11% drop. So a county the size of Murray, it's alarming. It's alarming across the state. What we're hearing from early enrollment trends for this year, and these are not going to be solidified yet. We'll have to wait a little while for this, but it sounds like we're going to stay statewide at about this 57% number. Sounds like we're remaining pretty flat in terms of enrollment. Something that we certainly want to dig in on, and we could use your help. First thing that we need is more mentors, always, especially on the college going side of this. There are 30 of us on staff now. We're larger than we have ever been. But with 60 to 65,000 high school seniors, we just can't put meaningful supports around that many. But our mentors working in small groups can. So reminder of the 3 roles. 1, you serve as that task manager, making sure students are meeting their deadlines. They're making progress towards college while remaining eligible for the scholarship, submitting their application, finishing their financial aid packages. 2nd, you're that trusted family resource, the person they can reach out to when they have a question, when they don't know what the next step is, when they get a letter from financial aid and they don't know what it means, they have someone they can call, email, text. And then finally, the encouragement piece, which I've been arguing for the last 12 years is the most important. I certainly think as we continue to navigate fairly uncertain times, that this remains the most important. Just said, hey, you can do this and we're going to do it together. And yeah, times are weird. And anyone who has ever been to college before, you struggle at some point in time, right? I really struggle in math. Other students struggle writing papers. Other students are juggling full-time jobs and going to school full-time. It just gets hard. And just to say that that's okay and that's normal, I think oftentimes is the difference maker. Mentoring in 2022 is going to look different than it did this year, which has looked significantly different than any of our previous years. So if you mentored with us this year, you know that we invested in a platform called tnAchieves Connect, which allows you to go on and meet with your students virtually in a video chat platform, a lot like this, still call, still email, still text. Connect also allows you to track your students in a way that we've never been able to allow mentors to do before. You can see when they submit their community service hours pretty much live, when they applied to the college, when they enrolled full-time. You're seeing all this as soon as we're seeing it. That will stay with us in 2022. We surveyed our current mentors. 2/3 of our current mentors told us that they want an in-person option. So if you mentored with us previous to this year, you remember those big, large meetings in the high school. I've been to most of the ones in Rutherford County. Blackman is standing room only. Riverdale, standing room only. Smyrna, all of them are huge. All of your high schools are pretty giant. Gets real hot, gets real crowded. We're not going back to those. Those are a thing of the past. What we are going to offer in 2022 is a couple of in-person options. 1, we are hoping to host what we are calling an open house on college campuses across the state, where we will block off a few hours on a day. You and your students can come. It will not be mandatory, but you can come, sit down, get to know each other. There will be a tnAchieves staff person available to answer questions, no formal presentation. And we're hoping that our college staff will also come, have computers where students can apply or check their application status, complete those admissions files, really kind of make it a one-stop shop. And then we're also going to encourage you to meet with your students on your own if you would like. We've never really encouraged that before it happens. Randy, for example, takes his students out to pizza every year. We had a mentor this summer that actually set up her own summer bridge program in her front yard. She pulled a table and chairs out under a big tree in her front yard. A student came and she essentially tutored this student to get ready for the placement exam, which is way more than what we ask our mentors to do. But we do know they're meeting in person. We're going to try to keep that 12-hour per year, 1 hour a month time commitment. You see that we need 509 mentors. Huge shout out to Beth Duffield, who was on the call today, and the chamber pushes this for us every year. Every year in that last week, we somehow find a way to get there, right, Beth? I don't know how we do it. It feels like Rutherford County always comes through right there at the end with a huge push. Cannot thank Beth and her team and all of you that have mentored with us enough. But we do need 509 people. Like I said earlier, I think as we're continuing to navigate this pandemic, this mentoring piece is more important than ever. We're ready for the next 509 locally. New mentors, if you've not mentored with us before, you see the website on the screen there. Go on, complete the new mentor application. Returning mentors, you can go on and do the renewal, or you can just reply to any of the emails that you have sent us, or that we have sent you, and say, hey, I want to come back next year, and we'll get you in the hopper. We'll have trainings available virtually pretty soon. A couple of other things that you can do to help us out. One, become a mentor. Two, connect us with your community. So if you have opportunities for us to come and speak at your civic clubs, at your chamber events, been to the Rutherford Chamber more times than I can probably count. If you have email blasts, we can give you content. Or if you just want to send an email to your personal networks, your friends, your family, shoot us an email at mentors@tnAchieves.org. We will give you content. You don't even have to create it, or you can manipulate it, share your own personal experience, but we'll type up all of the main things for you if you would like. And again, if you have those opportunities for us to come and visit, we are ready to get out into the community and visit and present this opportunity. We can do a big statewide Tennessee Promise, or we can zoom in and do a Rutherford County presentation, whatever works for you. And then finally, the student application is open. As you saw earlier, student applications are not typically a problem. More than 90% of students are applying, but it never hurts to provide a final reminder for the high school seniors, or if you know a family that has a high school senior, that application is open and available to them as well. That is all of the data and all of the information that I have for you. Here you see all of my contact information. Always feel free to reach out and ask me questions, give me a call, give me your feedback. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to see all of you. I'm happy to take any questions, comments, or feedback that you have. I saw that Nancy said, are you able to present to a church? Yeah, we can do that. Anyone, if there is an active group of people, we are willing to come and tell the story. But any other questions, comments, feedback?
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Nancy. I just want to jump in and tell you that this is the first year I've had 3 students starting classes this week out of that 10. That's just a high percentage from my experience. So I'm excited about that very much. And I will have to tell you, you text and you email and you don't get a response from so many of them. And then I get a text from one of those non-responders on Monday, 2 days ago, that said, can I still go to Motlow? So, now, obviously, he's not eligible for the Tennessee Promise, but he knew that. And he said, I know I'm not eligible, I have to pay, but can I still go? And I'm like, classes are starting, but call them up, just find out. If not, make a plan for next time. So it was still exciting that we might not have totally lost him, that he might still go to school. And that's the whole point, whether they use the promise or not, is to get them to school. So that was real encouraging. It's like, you never know. You think you're not, you think you're just putting it in the hole, and you might not be. They've got it. He's obviously still had that information. And anyway, I thought that was exciting. I thought I'd share it with you. Thank y'all so much for all you do.
And Nancy, I think that's basically the Tennessee Achieves mentor commercial right there, is that, yeah, you reach out and sometimes it feels like you're reaching out into the abyss, and we know that they're hard to reach, but what we do know is when they have questions or when they need something, they will reach out, and it can make all the difference.
Yeah.
Graham, it's Chris West with NHC. If possible, I'd like to work with your team to probably create some kind of communication that we can send to our healthcare centers throughout the state, just encouraging them to, get with their local high schools and, participate in Tennessee Achieves. Also, of course, Rutherford County will be doing that, but I'd just like to do something on a more statewide basis too. So if I could just, I'll just shoot you an email. Anything you can do to help would be appreciated.
Yeah, Chris, that sounds wonderful. We've got content that, kind of generally explains the program and how to get involved. And then you could put your personal spin on it or your personal call to action or whatever that might be, we can certainly do that. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I mean, just looking at your, percentage of folks that are going into STEM or healthcare, I mean, that's promising, and of course, coming out of a pandemic, we haven't done anything to really heighten folks' desire to get into healthcare. So we need to, keep priming that pump when we can. So
I'll tell you, so 51% are healthcare or STEM, 27% are healthcare. So it is our largest sector by a pretty good margin. And then the STEM stuff kind of shakes out into different fields, but healthcare is our largest major currently for our students.
super.
Yes, sir.
I'll send you some. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Graham.
So this was my,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, as another mentor, this is Fran Jones speaking. Just want to let you know, Connect made a real difference, I think, this year. And please continue to support that program and make sure that it goes. I have a student that doesn't like to talk on phone or video or anything like that, but she loves to chat. And I've been doing mentoring, I think, for 6 years now, and we have had more chats because this student wants to achieve her degree, but she's scared. And I've had more questions from her about how scary it is to go to college than any student I've ever had. And so I want to really say that I think the Connect platform has certainly helped students who may be timid or intimidated, who are introverted and really can't open up face to face, but boy, can they chat.
The feedback that we have received on Connect has been overwhelmingly positive. Now we know that getting students in it is challenging, and we know that getting them to communicate in it can be challenging. But I do think that layer of tracking for mentors is extremely useful. We have already devised a plan to get more students active in it this year. We are planning to visit the high schools in November and December if we can. We know that plan may change, but their sign-in will actually be, rather than coming in and like checking a piece of paper, they will sign into their Connect account, which will count as their mandatory meeting.
I think also the level setting that you guys did, the expectation level setting that you guys did with mentors to say you're not going to hear from all your students, but you're still doing a good job. I think when you first start, you think all 10 are going to call you every day. It's not going to happen that way. And so a lot of people, I think, don't sign up because they think it's going to be a lot of their time. But I also think the ones who are very excited about it think they're doing something wrong if they don't reach out. And I just encourage people to think about their own teenagers in their own home and say, how often do they want to talk to you? Mine never wanted to talk to me when they were seniors in high school. They had bigger and better things to do. So I think you got to keep encouraging new mentors, especially that if you get 2 of your students out of 10, you're doing great things.
Yes, absolutely. Chris, I just saw your question. Yes, I will forward you the PowerPoint. Make a note to do that right now. Bonnie, do you have a question or comment?
This was my first year as a mentor, so sort of an odd year to join the group. I wondered, for those of you who've been in the program for a while, did it seem like this year you were shouting into the void even more? I really didn't get responses. I had one student ever who responded back to me the whole time out of my 6. I did manage to talk to one other on the phone in multiple phone calls and voicemails and texts and going through Connect and emails and nothing ever. I just wondered, is that typical or was it worse this year?
No, this was the most challenging year for me. Like Fran and Beth, I've been at this maybe 6 years, and it was the most challenging year for communications.
Yeah, what we're hearing, and I think it's invaluable for them to meet you in person, see you in person. There was just no way to do that this year. At least there was no way we felt like we could do that safely. And so we're going to try to get in front of that. I think that the video chat, for those that are able to do it, is helpful. I think it's helpful for students to know that you are a real person on the other side of this, right? that you're not a machine, that you're not some robot, that you are a real person. So we're trying to get ahead of that for next year.
And I offered it, nobody ever took me up on it. I've decided for this next year, I'm just gonna set maybe 2 days, specific times and say, here's when we're meeting, come meet. And I'm just not gonna give them the option of, would you like to? When would you like to? I'm just gonna say, here it is. This is when I'm gonna be here. Here's the link, be there and see what happens.
Yeah, and so the platform that we invested in is designed. We're a unique program operating at a unique scale. Is designed for what they call flash mentoring, which essentially means like it's designed for university alums and current students. And so you go on and say like, I'm free Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11 to 1. And then students can go on, find you, click, and call. So if you go on and just kind of leave it open, that might work. If you like direct them there and you're online, they can hit the button and it'll call right to you. They're also working to make it, and I think they make it compatible with your iPhone, which I think will be a big win for mentors and students. And they've launched, they're calling it an app. It's a web-based platform that you can use on your phone also for the video chat. So I think they're making some improvements for us that I think will be beneficial. Anyone else? All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really great to see so many familiar faces. And we've been saying this for years, and it holds true now more than ever, that our program really is only as successful as the communities that we serve allow us to be. And our support from Rutherford County since day one has just been through the roof. Beth said in the comments, I think I saw earlier, that you have a great community, and that is 100% the truth. Didn't put this in there. We didn't do a college breakdown, but Motlow State has the highest success rate with Tennessee Promise students of any of our 13 community colleges. So we know that our students in this region are being successful. The Southern Middle Tennessee region has been the big winner with Tennessee Promise, had seen largest increases in college going rates. And it's because I think we've got such good community members supporting students. So we appreciate you being here. If you ever need anything from us, please don't hesitate to let me know. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.